First and foremost, I would like to share that by reaching this point in my coffee master journey is already an achievement for me. Why? Maybe because I'm lucky enough to have the great opportunity to partake in this privilege apart from being a proud Starbucks barista. Some might say that this is a long and difficult process, but I'm taking this as a challenge for myself to improve my job performance and to give my best from my co-partners, just as I provide a legendary service to our dear customers. In line with the process of becoming a global coffee master, like them, quality is also needed, and not just for us baristas, but for our coffee as well. For today's coffee tasting, we will study how quality is ensured along the journey from farm to cup, how numerous factors can affect the properties of a single coffee bean to every pound. I will discuss the mastery and refinement of transforming them into the finished product ready to brew. I will also be taking you through the decaffeination process by knowing first its history and moving on to the different methods of decaffeinating coffee. Speaking of which, in coming down in favor of selecting my chosen coffee to be presented, it's self-evident that I humbly chose our Decaf Komodo Dragon Blend. I would like to explore its essence and intrinsic nature or indispensable decaffeination quality it manifests. And of course, like always, I will present to you its tasting notes, overall flavor profile, and complementary food pair. To start us off, you should know that in order for quality to be put in place, it must come from our beneficial partnerships, and one of which is our coffee quality teams. And Starbucks has a few of them. Our beloved company has not one, nor two, but three teams established to guarantee that we consistently source, roast, and serve some of the world's finest and exceptional coffee there is. Each of the quality teams has a distinct and special responsibility at various points during a coffee's journey to our store. The first is the FSCs, or Farmer Support Centers. These are our aid with helping assure farmers to continue to improve coffee quality and sustainability by working together with agronomists, quality experts, and coffee practices administrators. The coffee growing regions in which our FSCs are located are in Costa Rica, which, by the way, were our first ever Farmer Support Center opened in 2004. The others are in Mexico, Colombia, Tanzania, Rwanda, Ethiopia, Sumatra, and Yunnan. The second is the Starbucks Coffee Trading Company, or SCTC. They are responsible for the management of global purchasing of Starbucks green coffee and global coffee by working with suppliers, farmer business relationships, and contract negotiation that exercises continuous improvement and reduced risk are also under its management. Also, quality and pre-shipment samples, as well as the coordination of the transportation of green coffee to Starbucks roasting plants. The last thing is that they take action whenever a quality defect became apparent. The last is the Global Coffee Quality Team. It manages recipes and product development, defines quality standards, and determines global business needs. GCQ ensures that coffee quality is maintained once it arrives at one of our roasting plants all the way to our customers, forecasts future green coffee needs, manages aging and decaffeination processes, creates and maintains recipes for our blends, and communicates green coffee needs to the SCTC. As you can see, these three work together, or these three organizations work together. All have one thing in common, and that is the taking care of the quality of our coffee. These three work together side by side to deliver only the best. So, whenever you're drinking a cup of Starbucks coffee, you should know the rigorous process that it takes for it to be worth something more than meets the eye. Now, let me ask you, how do you perfect something? The answer is, of course, by doing it over and over and over again. By repeatedly doing something, you eventually get the hang of it. you master it, and in the end, become an expert at it. Whatever the thing you're focused on will ultimately reach the point of perfection. You should know that each of our coffee is or goes through a lengthy process just to get to high quality status. To be more specific, each of our coffee is tasted exactly 15 times. To explain more, we have steps in ensuring quality. First is we offer a sample of 3 cups of coffee by SETC quality experts. Next is contracts are negotiated by traders, which includes the price and amount of the coffee. Following is the pre-shipment samples of 6 cups of coffee, which are tasted by the SETC. Afterwards, the green coffee makes its way to one of our roasting plants, decaf facility, green coffee house, or aging warehouse. The last the last thing is the arrival samples of 6 cups of coffee, which are tasted by the Global Coffee Quality Team in Seattle once coffee arrives into the US. This is the last step of quality control before it goes into roasting. A few more interesting facts to be mentioned. We should know that there are roughly more than 250,000 cups of coffee are tasted each year. These are done between our SETC and GCQ tasting rooms. Also, each of our coffee is being tasted in 15 cups as explained earlier. But bear in mind, if any of those cups are questionable due to defect and cup quality, the coffee will get cupped up an additional 36 times to ensure quality in the purchase. Clearly, the screening process of each of our coffee goes through unimaginable lengths just to get to the highest possible quality we can think of. And these are thanks to our coffee quality teams. And to dive deeper, let's focus more with SETC. The Starbucks Coffee Trading Company is again located at Lausanne, Switzerland. This is the site of the earliest coffee house in continental Europe. More details about the SETC is that they are responsible for the global purchasing of green coffee for Starbucks based on forecast numbers given by the Global Coffee Quality Team. They use 3 guidelines. One is purchasing transparently. Our company offers our coffee farmers reliability and price stability by buying coffee at reasonable prices based on quality and sustainable performance. The second is the direct cooperation with coffee farmers. This enables us to have a closer and more mutual relationship with them that is based on the level of faith, trust, and respect. This allows us to grow our company together. The possibility of an increase of the farmer's financial gain will be up to reach every time we purchase with transparency from their coffee farms or through local third-party facilitators. The third and last would be the advantages of long-term contracts. Basically, this explains the pros of having long-term contracts with Starbucks. This helps our farmers get a guarantee for a more stable and steady supply of coffee at prices that are firm for both the producer and the buyer. For the reason that climate change gives a challenging road to our coffee farmers, and it's of great importance that they know they can depend on reliable buyers for future harvests. In addition to buying coffee, Starbucks continue to learn and understand more about our coffee by traveling to origin countries and further strengthen their partnerships with our coffee growers and suppliers. These connections are key to our progressive success. They solidify our role as champions of quality and advancement during every step of the coffee business. SETC is proof that we are more than just a company buying coffee to sell. We branch out to the sidelines and look closer to the hard work and labor behind every cup, which makes our coffee even more worth the taste. Now, let's move on to sampling coffee. First of all, the reason for tasting coffee is to know its quality, tasting notes, and overall flavor profile, just like we do in coffee tasting. But the difference with this is that it all begins with our very few qualified tasters on the coffee quality teams. These teams start their day in the cupping room, and inside are less than 15 people in 4 offices around the globe who are exclusively certified and eligible professionals to taste the coffee. The term they use is cupping or cup tasting. It is the process used to evaluate coffee objectively or to create a flavor profile. The basic attributes evaluated are aroma, acidity, body, and flavor. They cup anywhere from 100 to 600 cups of coffee a day, amounting to more than 250,000 cups a year. Those who cup coffee must essentially use all the same descriptors and tasting language and share coffee notes within the team through conversations and emails. Beans are tasted all along their journey. First is that the green coffee are assessed visually for quality, then or overall quality, then roasted in a small sample roaster, ground and infused in boiling water. Then the tester smells the brew to experience its aroma. After letting the coffee sit and settle for a few minutes, the tester breaks the crust by pushing aside the coffee grounds at the top of the cup and smelling the aroma again before tasting. An expert taster can taste hundreds of samples of coffee a day and still taste the subtle differences between them. In other words, their palates must be calibrated. To taste the coffee, a taster or a tester slurps a spoonful with a quick inhalation for the coffee to spray evenly over his or her taste buds and then evaluates it before spitting it out. Like a ritual, coffees are analyzed for their inherent characteristics and flaws, for blending different beans or determining the proper roast. And now, speaking of samples, we have 3 kinds or stages that need tasting before it goes into blending and roasting. First is offer samples. These coffee samples are the ones from our farmers and suppliers. They present their products to the SETC for tasting. 3 samples of each offer are tasted and receive feedbacks about the quality. A cupping grade glossary is being used as a reference guide for consistency. The glossary issues acceptable green bean moisture, density requirements, and appearance, meaning color, size, and shape, as well as expectations from different countries. Discussing the results are done by the suppliers and the quality team at the SETC. If an offer sample is accepted and the SETC agrees to purchase, a written contract is then provided. Note that half the other samples that are sent to the SETC are accepted. The second is are the pre-shipment samples. These coffee samples are tested by the SETC where they taste 6 cups of each pre-shipment before it is transported. A defect in one cup will result in a rejection. These coffee samples are categorized at SETC to be compared against arrival samples, which will be explained earlier. To be clear, the coffee quality of pre-shipment and arrival samples should be the same. If the pre-shipment sample meets our expectations, the SETC then coordinates a coffee transport to one of our roasting plants in the US. You should know that around 90% are accepted as a testament to the work of our coffee quality teams. The last is the arrival samples. These are the coffee samples evaluated by the global coffee quality team. Only a 10% representative sample from each lot purchased is taken and sent to the GCQ team in Seattle for tasting once coffee arrives into the US. From that 10%, they roast and brew 6 cups to taste to ensure quality and help coordinate how a particular coffee should be used. This is the final step in the green coffee quality process. before it goes into blending and roasting. Uh, in conclusion, sampling coffee is a significant process when it comes to our quality or to the quality of our coffee, and a lot is validated to ensure that we only serve the best. Now, we all know that not everybody wants caffeine in their system, but still wants that great sensation that makes up a good cup of coffee. That's where decaffeination comes in. If coffee is decaffeinated, it's always done before roasting the coffee. From their origin, uh, green coffees or the green coffee is sent to one of our third-party decaffeinating facilities. Let's face it, some of the things that you can think of when you hear the word coffee is caffeine. Energy, hyper, awake. Coffees are made up of thousands of different compounds, and one of which is in fact caffeine. The challenge that comes with decaffeination is by eliminating the caffeine from the bean without affecting or likely affecting the other compounds that contribute to the flavor. Since caffeine is water soluble, each of the various ways to decaffeinate coffee uses water to draw it out. It also removes sugars, proteins, and other different compounds that make up the flavor. The difference in each method is the additional solvent used to speed up the process and help select which compound to remove. One of the few methods to decaffeinate coffee is the direct contact method. This is probably the most common method of all. It uses a solvent called methylene chloride. It is highly selective when it comes to removing caffeine, so the coffee bean's quality and flavor stays during the process. It all begins with the green coffee. They are steamed for the pores to open up. Then they are they are rinsed in solvent, and then caffeine-laden solvent is rinsed away. After that, or finally, the coffee beans gets a final steam to get rid of any traces of the solvent. And during the roasting process, the coffee's temperature can go up to 400 degrees Fahrenheit or 205 degrees Celsius. In the end, there's no detectable methylene chloride left in the beans. Another method is the Swiss water process method. The way this removes the caffeine from the bean is that first, the green coffees are soaked in warm water to create a flavor-charged water. That water is then run through an activated charcoal filter to capture the caffeine molecules. Unlike the direct contact method, this doesn't utilize any solvent, but the carbon filter essentially filters out the caffeine. Lastly, the coffee beans are submerged back into the flavor-charged water to regain its flavors. The last method to decaffeinate coffee is the natural decaffeination method. This process begins within a stainless steel tank with water-soaked green coffee sealed up inside. Liquid carbon oxide is then forced into the coffee inside the tank at a very high pressure. That acts as the solvent to draw out or dissolve the caffeine from the beans, leaving behind larger flavor molecules. Finally, after decaffeination, coffees are sent to their roasting plant destinations. And upon arrival, a sample of each coffee is sent to the GCQ team in Seattle for roasting and cupping. To sum up, even with coffee, we still manage to give our customers the luxury to enjoy our product without compromising their health when it comes to avoiding caffeine. And now, why don't we travel back to the history of decaffeination? It all began in the 1900s when the Germans discovered it. Coffee importers, to be exact. In the year 1903, Carl Wimmer and Ludwig Roselius accidentally discovered a way to decaffeinate coffee. One of their shipments of coffee from Nicaragua was soaked in seawater, which resulted to the beans losing most of its caffeine. And now the beans became salty. And because they didn't want to sell coffee with this unusual taste, the importers researchers discovered a way to extract caffeine with using solvents and steam. And in line with removing caffeine, the Swiss water process method is the one being used by our decaf Komodo Dragon blend. By creating a flavor-charged water from soaking green coffee in warm water and making use of an activated charcoal filter to capture the caffeine molecules as said earlier. And since we're about to learn the flavors of my chosen coffee, I will share a little bit of its background. The Komodo Dragon blend is farmed on the small island called Flores that is 200 miles east of Bali and was named after the Komodo dragon, which is the world's largest wild roaming lizard that has a picture in the coffee's packaging. This coffee is known for its exciting and exotic reputation. The island of Flores is filled with rugged terrain consisting of volcanoes and mountains with elevations as high as 8,000 feet. These drastic spaces, as well as the abundant volcanic soils, create ideal fertile growing conditions for this amazing coffee. And with all these stories, as I learn more about this coffee, I've come across a hearsay story that's been told every now and then by old Starbucks partners. I found out about that the Komodo Dragon blend or the Komodo Dragon coffee is known for being the mistake blend. However, I can totally vouch for this story's accuracy, but I'm intrigued by the way it was portrayed. The story goes that Starbucks coffee experts were copying a coffee blend for quality at the headquarters. During the process, they noticed that something was quite off with the taste. As it turns out, it was a blend where the rooster forgot or used the wrong formulation and components. Basically, it was clearly an honest mistake. As the story goes on, it was when a taster had walked into the coffee tasting room and went for a sip and said that it was a great coffee and asked what it is. Thus, the birth of the Starbucks Decaf Komodo Dragon blend. It was first introduced in 1997 as a promotional coffee in Japan. It was and was later released again in the year 2000 to celebrate the Zodiac year of the dragon. It became a staple coffee for Starbucks International. With all these stories about this coffee, I will not wait any longer to try it for myself. Here I'm using a French press as my brewing equipment and using the number 10 grind setting of our Malconic grinder. I've put inside 2 tablespoons of ground coffee with 180 milliliters of hot filtered water with the optimum heat temperature ranging from 195 to 205 degrees Fahrenheit. I will now smell the aroma of our decaf Komodo Dragon blend. As I inhale and got a whiff of the coffee, I'm processing an aroma of sugary sweet with subtle earthy notes as well. This coffee came from our Asia Pacific coffee growing region, which possesses the same properties. Now, I will finally get a taste of our decaf Komodo Dragon blend. I'm exposed to a low acidity impact uh, as this coffee made use of a washed and semi-washed processing method. The coffee taste lingers in my mouth for a bit after the first slurp. And now for my second sip. It definitely is a thick coffee with a full body characteristic that I can feel at the back end part of my tongue, which goes through and leaves a lingering spicy aftertaste. It has flavors of fresh green herbs that I can associate well with ground oregano. And this coffee is certainly under the dark roast spectrum. And now, moving on with my food pair. What I prepared today is apple cinnamon flavored mini oatmeal cookies. I tried to combine two complementary flavors of our decaf Kamado Dragon blend, which are cinnamon and pastries. But before anything else, I'll first take a sip of water to cleanse my palate. I'll now begin. After snacking on my food pair and incorporating it with the coffee, I can tell that it was a perfect match. The sort of buttery feel of the cookie and its cinnamon flavor uh, brought out or blended perfectly with the spicy notes present in the coffee. And the actual oatmeal texture complemented the earthy flavor found in the brew. And now, to end my coffee tasting, I would like to take this opportunity to share with you that like our decaf Komodo Dragon blend, with being one of the few whole beans we sell that is decaffeinated, it's me that like Starbucks. We are doing our best to accommodate our customers with their preference and liking. And just like us baristas, we are doing our best to give our customers the satisfaction of fulfilling their needs whenever they ask for a little bit of assistance every time they visit their third place. Thank you, and I hope you enjoyed my presentation.